ReefDudes is sponsored by Ecotech Marine and Bulk Reef Supply. Today we're getting an update on the Nyos 440. What's going on, guys? Devin from ReefDudes. So the Nyos 440 has been up for about a month now. I did put some tester corals in there and some of them fared well and some not so much. Now I was actually just out of town for 2 weeks and I came back and the tank was absolutely covered in dinos. Now we beat it fairly quickly when it's about 90% gone, but we'll get into that in a few. So let's get to the tank and kind of an update on where things are at. Now generally when you start a tank, you kind of want to wait until things settle in before you start to add corals to it. I added a bunch on day one as kind of test subjects. Now in the bottom right there we have the mushrooms. Those guys went in, and on the left we have the Bernardopora. And these two guys were my test subjects since day one. Now taking a look at them, the mushrooms, super happy, everything's going well there. Bernardopora, one of them's closed up, the other's open right now. Now, the funny, or I guess semi-ironic thing is, everything in this tank was looking great prior to me going away on vacation. And I come back from vacation, and of course the tank was absolutely covered in dinos. I wish I took some clips of it, but you can see it's pretty much all gone now. There's a couple little sand bed spots, which we'll treat and we'll get rid of that. Now to beat the dinos actually was surprisingly simple. I did pop them under a microscope to verify what type they were, and they were a type that could be beat with UV, so I did kind of go all out on that one. Now ironically, I just picked up a pretty cheap UV bulb and I threw it in my sump. Now this was a bare UVC bulb, so this is not the safest route, but a short-term fix, it worked phenomenally well to clear things up. That paired with about a 2-day blackout seemed to get about 99% of it gone. And I'm talking the rock, the sand, everything was absolutely covered. So pretty happy with how fast that was basically beat. Now I do see a few little patches here, you know, that could be diatoms, it could be dinos. I did get Mo 3D Reefing's his little sand bed sweeper, so I haven't tried it yet, but I'm gonna try that and see if I can take out those last few spots. But the bare UVC bulb in my sump works so well. Now the downside to that is UVC is kind of sketchy. You don't want to get in your eyes. It could deteriorate stuff. You know, would it affect the sump silicone, all that jazz. So I am going to turn that into a bit of a project and make a bit of a DIY UV sterilizer, and we'll do that in the next few weeks. That'll be kind of its long-term solution. So tank-wise, it is lit with 2 Radeon XR30 Pros. Previous tank, I had 15s above it. This one, I wanted to keep it a bit simpler, a little bit less stuff on the tank, so I went with the 2 30s instead. A few weeks back, I did a video on the Nyos feeder. Now this is a super cool feeder. It has been on the tank for about the last 3 weeks now. And it's been feeding twice a day and it's been working very, very well. Super duper cool feeder. Not the cheapest thing in the world, but I think it is pretty awesome. Tank wise, of course, the Nyos 440, absolutely gorgeous tank. Super pristine glass. Everything on this tank is just a beauty. So really, really happy with the tank so far. Plumbing, everything was very super simple to do on it. So definitely a sweet tank. I finally got around to putting the doors on the other day. And in the first one here, we have my control cabinet. This is very similar to what I had on there before. Battery backup wise, I ended up just putting a mini 100 amp hour above it, which just fit in there. So it's nice and tucked out of the way, and it's hooked up to all my power heads. Equipment wise, behind here, still a bit of a mess. I still got to tidy up the wires a bit, but for the most part I just moved this over and kind of see this power bar other than the UVC in the feeder that's basically free. So I have reduced the amount of gear on there. So it is on my to-do list to tidy up this wires a bit more whenever I get a bit more free time. Now the only one little bit of tricky bit in here is in order to open this, I have to raise my desk up, which isn't the end of the world, but just a bit of tight fit with the doors. But once I raise it up, then I can get into the cabinet, and with the desk you can see it just clear. So it was a bit of a tight fit, but it worked out. So in the sump, so far I have been trying my best to keep it fairly simple, and overall I think I've been winning. We have in so far just socks. I didn't think I'd use socks again, but so far I've been just rocking the mesh socks for now. Felt socks clog all the time and drive me nuts. These I can kind of ignore. It just more or less catches the big stuff. Coming in the back, we got the little Tunesy ATO. You can kind of see all the bits of nasty bit I got to clean up. That was from the dinos and the skim overflowing while it was gone. And in the back right now, I just have my slightly sketchy UVC bulb, which we're going to change out. We got a bunch of the matrix media type of stuff and one big skimmer. Now in the back, I just have a single dose quiet drive, and that is dosing Alpha Reef. So these are pretty cool little simplicity containers that I picked up. So it fit perfectly in this little nook. and I think that has been an awesome solution, and it fit just right. I did put in my own acrylic dosing container inside of here instead of the glass one, primarily because I wanted a lid on it. And I also did tie that into my RODI unit. So if we come over here, you can see the RODI tucked in the back. And this auto refills the ATO, similar system before. And then I have another Simplicity container here, which is used for my Trident waste. So again, those ones just, the size was just perfect. And you know, they hold 5 liters, so pretty good volume. So overall, keeping her pretty simple in the sump. Now the sump was pretty nasty, along the skimmer and the whole tank when I came back from vacation with dinos just absolutely covering everything. Now from day one, I had in the mushrooms and I had in the Bernardipora. And the funny thing with those is, those ones have been fairly happy for everything from absolutely day one of the tank. Now, I ended up using new sand. I did pre-cycle my rock, and I did decide to put in a few acros about a weekend. Now, up until the dinos, all 3 of the different acros were alive and happy. After the dinos and the blank out and the treatment, I ended up losing my little Walt Disney frag, which is right there. And I lost not all, but most of my Hellfire Millie. If I take a look here, you got the couple little branches on the bottom. I still see some flesh and polyps, but my bigger chunk right there has definitely bit the dust. So that one is not 100% faring well. There's another chunk on the ground that I think actually might be okay. So that's there. Now, in contrast to that, we look in the middle and my Orange Passion looks great still. It is growing, you know, it looks like it might start to be puddling out a little bit, but that one is happy as could be. So it's kind of funny just to see Millie didn't fare well with the dinos, and neither did Walt Disney. So those are the 2 kind of things. Now, if I look at my urchin in the back, he actually has a couple frags on his back, and I'm not sure which one that is. I think that might be Orange Passion, might be a Millie, but I don't know. I may have a chunk I can retake off him and put back on there. But yeah, so there you go. Pre-cycled the rock for about a month, new sand. I had the Matrix Media stuff, the glass stuff, whatever it's called, in my sump that I pre-cycled in my tank for a month or 2. So it was a fairly brand new tank, but I did pre-cycle the rocks and I did have pre-cycled media, and I added corals right away, right? So easier corals, obviously they fared well. Surprisingly, the Orange Passion, happy as can be. Walt Disney didn't make it, and I'm kind of like 50-50, like that piece is okay, that piece died. And that was mainly from the dinos. It was still alive when I came back, but covered in dinos. So the dinos can be a bit toxic, and I think that might have what did it in. So kind of 50-50 on that one. I am starting to see coralline growth in here. Yesterday I took my paraheads off and I cleaned them and gave them a citric acid bath, and they were starting to get bits of purple coralline on it. So that's a good sign. Always good to see. I can see little bits of purple on the rock. And that's always a good sign to see that, you know, the tank's starting to mature and be healthy. Now, corner of my eye. I just spotted I have an Aptasia. I need to get ahead of this. There's 2 little pieces of it in there, which probably hitched in on, I'm gonna guess, the mushroom rock. I see 3 of them right now. Now, lesson to be learned. In my nano, I think I saw 1 little Aptasia and I ignored it. I didn't do anything about it. And now there's like 5 or 6 or 7 in there. So this is, you know, the whole saying of a ounce prevention's worth a pound of cure. Look at all the Aptasia I have to deal with now. So I'm gonna have to like bust out the F-Aptasia and go to town on this one day and get that all cleaned up. And that's kind of a reminder for me to get my butt in gear and deal with the 2 or 3 I just spotted before they have a chance to spread to the rest of the tank. Now I'm definitely a little bummed about losing a couple acros in there, but to be honest, losing a couple isn't too bad considering I put them in a basically week-old tank. So a little bit expected, but a little bit kind of an experiment to see how things go. Now overall, since I beat the dino, I think things are kind of starting to settle in. There's obviously a few little patches in the sand bed I got to deal with, but aside from that, I think we're starting to be in a pretty good place. All right guys, hopefully you enjoyed this 1 month or so update on the Nyos 440, kind of the progression, the hurdles, and kind of where everything's at with the tank. So I'm gonna try and do a monthly update on this, so make sure that subscribe button to follow along. As always, if you enjoyed, hit that like button, and I'll catch you guys on the next video.